What if birth could be blissful, empowering, and even pleasurable? In today's episode, we're exploring how to reclaim birth as sacred, pleasurable, and a transformative experience. Hi, I'm Deborah Pascali Bonaro, host of the Orgasmic Birth Podcast, and I am thrilled to be joined by the incredible Estefany Angeles. Estefany is a student midwife, a certified lactation consultant, a Lamaze certified childbirth educator, a doula, and founder of A Mi Manera. Based in New York City with roots in the Dominican Republic, Estefany is passionate about preserving cultural traditions and creating spaces where birthing people can reclaim their power, their pleasure, and autonomy. Through education, birth support, and community work, she helps families navigate pregnancy and birth with confidence and connection. Estefany teaches childbirth classes and trains doulas in English and in Spanish, and is committed to birth justice and culturally responsive care. Estefany is also one of our orgasmic birth practitioners, and her work beautifully weaves together ritual, community, and the reclaiming of pleasure in birth. So she's here not only to share her experience, but her personal story, how becoming a mother awakened her passion for autonomous orgasmic birth, and how her own births became sacred, blissful experiences through touch, music, movement, and connection to pleasure. And if you're hearing a little one in the background, her 3-month-old baby is right there. And Estefany, I have to say, I couldn't wait for today. Being connected to you in all these ways and following you through your pregnancy, I couldn't wait to hear how your latest birth went, but also to have you share so much of your wisdom of all that you're doing for women and birthing people. So welcome.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm so honored to be here. It's so crazy. I remember just watching the film when I was pregnant and being so inspired before my first birth, and to now be sitting here talking to you, sharing my birth story is just it's such a special moment. So thank you.
Thank you. And I know that this last birth was special, but every birth is special. And it's probably a lot to think back, but can you think back to like when you first became pregnant with your first child and just share kind of a snippet about what that was like, what you did to prepare, and kind of what that birth journey was like?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that first journey, I just remember being so excited to be a parent. We were really lucky. We decided to start trying for kids. And, I think I got pregnant sooner than I expected, which was so shocking. It was like, oh, this happens like, right away. Like, okay, we're having a baby. And that was, it was a beautiful surprise. And just from the moment that I found out at like 4 weeks, I was going for like a well woman check to just, see because I wanted to tell him that we wanted to start planning for a family and all these things, like what I should do to get my body ready and all of these things. And then I come back and I'm already pregnant. I'm like, what? Wait, what? So it was a whole whirlwind. And I think a big part of it was kind of figuring out what our journey was going to be like. And everyone's like, you should get a doula. So, I'm like, okay, sure, I'll check that box, and I got an awesome doula. And she's like, yeah, there's all these birth options and stuff, but I'm not making much of it. And then one of my coworkers is like, oh, I'm looking at this birth center in New Jersey. And I'm like, really? That's covered with our insurance? Like, wow, that sounds really great. So then I started exploring birth centers, realized there are none in New York, at least in my area, that service. So then I'm like connected with another coworker whose niece had a home birth. And I was like, that's too crunchy, that's not for me. I'm not, that's just too far on the other spectrum. And then she shared her birth story. She was also Dominican. She was from the Bronx. And it was just so wonderful to hear her experience and like how different it had been from her first hospital experience. I was like, wow, she showed me like pictures and videos, and I was like, oh my, her daughter was at her birth. And it was just, I was like, wow, this is like it sounds pretty amazing. So we interviewed with her midwife, and it was just really far, but we're like, oh no, we hit we're on the right track. Maybe, this isn't going to work out because of the distance and whatnot, but this is like the right stuff, like the midwife's like, yeah, like I don't really do much. I just, I'm there like in the background if you need me. And I just remember the visit wasn't sterile, like it was like this cozy space. And I was just like, okay. And then we found my midwife, Val, who we were just like, sending emails to home birth midwives in New York. And we met with her, and it was just love at first sight. We were like, oh, this is it. This is the right spirit. And it was just a beautiful journey, just of like being supported and never receiving care like that, right? Like just being loved on. And as a pregnant woman, like, wow, like that was just like everything I didn't know I needed. And it was just such different, like personalized care. And so we switched over at like 7 months, like 28 weeks, I remember. And so it was a pretty late transfer, but we were so excited. And, we did a childbirth class. And that was in Inwood, and it was just like such a beautiful experience. Like that, it was like I think the beginning of that connection where I just felt like it was an opportunity for my partner and I to like deepen our love, our connection around this baby. That was mostly I was experiencing it, the pregnancy. And then like that class was just like, we just got in such alignment. Like it was, we're doing like eye gazing and all these beautiful things. And it was just like such a magical experience. And then comes the birth, and we're just getting closer, and like I think there was just so much intimacy and like beautiful, like all the oxytocin flowing towards the end of that pregnancy. I think excitement of the first baby, again, and just like I feel like we were connecting on just so many levels, that was really, really special. And yeah, we had like the trial. Like I think also the fact that this is all new, we don't know anybody else who's done this, so we're like carving our way. We're watching orgasmic birth, we're watching the business of being born, like all of these things are like happening. And it was just, yeah, it was just magical to get to experience that. And then the day of the birth, sorry, make sure to silence all of this. The day of the birth, I remember, I'm going for a walk. We've had like a lot of days where I'm like, I think this is it. I'm the first timer, so I don't know. I don't know what's what. We had one day where we inflated the pool and everything. We gave it a test run. We ended up watching a movie while we're like in the pool, and like it was wonderful. And then the following week, it's all happening, and I text Val. I'm like, hey, I think things are kind of like maybe happening. She's like, have a nice glass of wine, take a bath, and just relax. And just even that imagery, right, is like
Right.
so different. Like it was just such a way to like ease into labor. We were intimate and like had sex like twice, and it was just beautiful, like magic. And then we went to sleep, and I probably slept for like 4 hours before like the contractions really like picked up. And it was just like such a beautiful way to like start labor. Um, and yeah, and then I woke my husband up at some point, and I'm just like, this can't be right, because the contractions were like every 2 to 3 minutes. And I'm like, how is it possible that like from the start, So I'm thinking we're timing them wrong. Like these must not be like the real contractions. And we tell our doula, and she heads over, Ida, and she gets to us like right away, and she helps me get into water, into the shower, and like that is all better. She's helping me breathe through it, and it's just amazing. And I'm like, wow, this is so much better. And I'm just pacing around this one bedroom apartment that we have, and like they're just following me like every time I have a contraction, stopping, lunging here, lunging there, hip squeezes, all of that stuff. And it was great. I didn't have to say anything. They just like knew how to support me and how to show up. It was really beautiful. And at some point, I'm saying to my husband, like, what was I thinking? Why do you let me do this? And like, like,
I love it.
yeah, I was just like, feeling all the feelings. Because in my head, I'm just like, I mean, I can't do this for 2 or 3 days. I was prepared for like first labor is going to be a while. And it had just gotten so intense. The contractions are just coming one after the other. And I'm just like, this, like, like, how is this happening? It just seems surreal. And then we were like, okay, so I finally got into the pool at that point. They're doing buckets, all the things to fill up the pool. Because of course, uh the hose doesn't reach, and all the things that you thought were gonna work don't work. But I get in the pool, and that is when I find my bliss. I was just like, wow, like, it just took all the weight off, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, I was just like, okay, I can do this. And I got so relaxed that I started bearing down, and I don't even realize it, but my doula's like, she calls Val, she's like, hey, she's pushing, and I'm like, what? Really? That's what's happening. And she's like 45 minutes away, so it's like, hey, you might want to get out of the pool, because this is probably going to happen before I get there. And so that was really hard for me. I was not ready to get out of the pool. I was like, I don't think I could, because this is just where I found my bliss. Eventually got out, and waited on the bed, and I'm just like trying to hold this baby in. So like this is at this point I'm feeling that reflex. It's so intense. She gets there, and I mean, I think they didn't have time to prepare coffee, nothing. Like less than 15 minutes later, we have a baby. Like, and it was just this most magical experience where I was just like, first push, it was like, yep, baby engaged. Next push, like we have a head. And I didn't experience like the ring of fire or anything like that. It was just like, I mean, it was like so much, right, to integrate and experience. And then
And did
just
you get back in the tub?
I didn't get back. I couldn't move. I was like, this baby's coming now. Like, we need to
Right.
do somebody catch this baby because the baby's just coming. At that point, I had just been trying to hold him in. And yeah, and then he was born, and it was just, it was so magical. We looked at him, we didn't know the gender, so we looked, and it was a boy, and we were so excited, and like that was just so blissful to meet this baby that we had, like just been imagining what he was gonna look like, and who he was gonna be. And yeah, it was absolutely beautiful. So that was just a wonderful like entry point, to birth. Like we were just like, holy moly, like, to me, I just remember like the contractions. I mean, it was hard, but I was waiting for it to get harder. I remember like the feeling that I had was like, oh, like, I mean, this was hard, but it wasn't like what I expected, maybe from what everybody had described. Because it didn't feel like it was ever bigger than me, right? Because it was coming from me, and it always felt like, okay, like again, intense, maybe in the frequency, and like the sensation of like not being able to catch your breath in that short transition period. But then aside from that, like it was overall like it was okay. Like it was okay. It was hard, but I could do it.
Yeah.
Which was such a powerful feeling to have afterwards, where I was like, oh my God, like I could do anything. I did that. Like I could do anything. So that was kind of how I felt after. I just felt so elated. I was just like, wow, I could conquer anything in the world. I am, good to go. Like that was great. And I left the feeling, I think, even in early postpartum of like, the hard part for me was breastfeeding. Like I think the birth to me was easier than the breastfeeding. That had such a wider learning curve, and it was so much longer, like of the navigating, learning on the spot with a new baby. that felt so much more challenging. So when we decided to try for our second baby, we were very lucky, got pregnant right away again. This was pandemic. So it was like, yeah, we're home. Why not? Let's just, this is a great time to connect and bring a baby. And I was still breastfeeding, so I didn't have a regular cycle. So I had no idea like it was when, I was ovulating or anything. But we got lucky and we had another baby. I was going for another wellness check to see, to be like, hey, we want to try again. And the same thing came out with this time. I was like 6 weeks pregnant, maybe, instead of 4. And so, yeah, it was a wonderful like light in spite of everything that was happening. Cause this was like, we found out in June 2020. So you can imagine it was just like a beautiful hope, to just bring this new light into the world. And we decided to go with the same birth team again, which was really great. I told Val this time, I was like, I feel like it was wonderful. And I want you like maybe in the living room, but I feel like I got this, like I feel like we got this. I want it to be like me and him, like me and my husband, just the two of us, like in that moment. And it was wonderful. Like the whole pregnancy was great. She was so supportive and like I remember especially because of COVID and everything, but she taught me how like palpate my baby and like all these beautiful things that I feel like I connected with that soul on such a deeper level. Just learning my body and like being more in tune. And I had so much confidence because I was like, I kicked butt the first time. Like, I got this, like I can even give birth to a baby. And then she was so late. My first baby was a due date baby. And so, in my mind at this point, I know like that's just a coincidence, not very likely to happen. But I think something in me didn't think I was going to go over. And I went over by 6 days and we had so many false alarms. She's a February baby. There were all these winter storms happening. Um, and the last false alarm was the Saturday before she was born. And Val came, she slept in her car. She like didn't even tell me because she didn't want to miss, like, there was snowing. So she's like, I just want to be close by, but I don't want to ruin your vibe, since she knew that I wanted like that time with my husband. So she slept in her car. My doula came, slept in the guest room, and like, it was just this, everybody was kind of giving me their space. And then everything fizzled out in the morning. And it was, and I was like, hey, can you check me in the morning? Which I never asked, and I never had like the first time. And she's like, I can't even feel your cervix. It's just like, it's so far back, I hadn't even moved forward. It was so posterior. And I remember just feeling the biggest disappointment. I'm like, I'm gonna be pregnant forever. That's it. Like, not gonna have this baby. Like, all the things that are so illogical, but happen in the last weeks of pregnancy. And she came 3 days later, was her time. I had a huge cry with my mom the night before, and I had to say these things out loud. I was like, I feel like I'm never gonna have this baby. I feel guilty for wanting her out. I don't want to do anything to get her out, but I want her out, all these conflicting feelings. And of course, I go into labor. I call them right away because the other birth, it was so precipitous. And so they're heading over, and I mean, the baby's born. Like I waited like 30 minutes just to make sure the contractions were consistent. And I mean, she was born in like an hour and a half, maybe from the very first contraction I had. So an hour
Wow.
after I called it. Yeah, it was just insane. My husband missed it because he was out calling to tell them to come because I was feeling the urge to push. And I think that birth was just so wonderful. I think when I got the urge to push was my doula got there. And I think like when I saw her, she asked me, she's like, what do you feel? And I was like, I feel good, like having obviously surges, but like I was fine in between. Um, and then after she said that, I felt the baby drop and I was like, the baby's coming. Like and my water broke. And then of course my husband steps out to call. And as soon as he calls, baby shoots out. And we have a baby. And we didn't know the gender again. And it was just like beautiful to like lift her up and just like see. Um, and it was like also a little shocking, like a little jarring because it was just so fast. And I just remember my husband and I looking at each other and just being like, we can do this again, which was kind of crazy. Like, who says that after they just pushed a
That's
baby
right.
out? And it was like, we were just like, oh my God, we have to do this again. Like, it was just so, again, this wonderful feeling that I can only describe like as just so euphoric. Like I mean, you just don't, I haven't experienced that, at other moments in my life. And so it's like how can you not want to do it again? Like it's just so great. You're just like, whoa, this crazy high. That is just so powerful. And we had a blissful postpartum, like breastfeeding for me, I would say has been hard at the beginning each time, but like it's a learning curve, and I was a little shocked by that it would be hard again the second time. But aside from that, it was just really beautiful. I did elimination communication with her. And so like we just had this beautiful like connection throughout that postpartum period, getting to know each other and all those oxytocin hormones, and she's a pandemic baby. So there was a lot of time like where we were home with her and like getting to enjoy being a family of four. And so that was really great.
Are you curious about enhancing pleasure and easing discomfort in labor? Orgasmic Birth and Dame present the Pleasure Vibe Fin, a waterproof vibrator designed to empower your journey through pregnancy, birth, and beyond. Boost your oxytocin, ease discomfort naturally, and transform your birth into an empowered and even orgasmic experience. Plus, support postpartum healing and reconnect with your body. Are you ready to embrace the power of pleasure? Click below, learn more, and start your transformation today. Well,
Pretty
I
my third
just
one.
want to say, like,
Yeah.
such incredible stories, right? And I just want to even go back the fact that some other people telling their story inspired you to explore your options. And I
Yeah.
really thank you for sharing yours because I hope the many people that are listening, right, are hearing different things than what we typically hear in the
Yeah.
paradigm that focuses more on pain and fear. And I love that, you call it intense and challenging and honoring that it is really hard work. But I really loved how you say it didn't get bigger than you. So many
Yeah.
lessons in your first two births.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I remember after the first one, I did a like a new moms group, and I just remember the connection. And I think my interest in all of this was just in sharing with people like, hey, this could be so amazing. Like I just felt like it was this hidden secret, that like nobody knew about, like how amazing this could be. And so yeah, that was just like a wonderful way to connect with other folks. And then after the second baby was when I decided to do the orgasmic birth doula training. And then I did Eat Pray Doula right after as well for postpartum. Because I was just like, I mean, this is just like the best well kept secret, in the world. Like nobody knows like how amazing this is. And at the time, I was working full time and I'm like, I'm just gonna do this for like family and friends, like I just so I can support them and show up for them, like, the support that I got, and just so people know, like, oh my gosh, birth can be blissful. Like I remember before Luna's birth, my second, I watched Orgasmic Birth again because I was like, I had seen it the first time, but I was like, I'm watching it with a different lens this time, not with the goal of having like an orgasmic birth per se, right? Or orgasm maybe during labor particularly I'm thinking, but just the idea of like birth can be pleasurable or like just it doesn't have to be bad. It can just be good. Like I don't know, just this idea that it could just be something good, powerful, right? Yeah, and it did exactly that for me. I think I watched it like the week before I gave birth. It was just like just what I needed, to just remember like what I wanted to bring into that birth. And I did feel so strong, right? That I could birth. My intention was not to birth my baby unassisted, but like I felt like not scared. Like I think the first time when I was pushing before my midwife got there, I was like scared what that meant, what would happen, because I've never experienced it before. But this time I had so much confidence. So I was just like, I got this, there was no fear. And I think I had worked through that. And so that was really, really special.
How
Uh,
special. So now take us forward because you've had your third baby just recently.
yeah. So with Vida, I she's 4 years younger than my middle child. And so she is the first baby I've had since I've gone into birth work. And so I have so much experience now attending births and such a different perspective that I feel like I felt really sure about, what I wanted. And just so much clear, right, on like the experience and definitely wanting to experience it again. And so it was a little bit of a journey getting to this little baby. We had two pregnancy losses right before she was conceived. And that was really, really heartbreaking. I think it
Yes.
was really, really hard, especially the first two times I mentioned, got pregnant first, like try basically. And to go through that experience was so jarring. But I think also, those spirit babies had maybe that lesson to teach me, right, as well. And I think it was, yeah, it was just, uh, it was really hard. Um, but we then got this little spirit, and I don't know if it's those babies coming back through her, but I felt like it made it so that this was a baby we really wanted. We wanted all of them, but I think after a loss, your rainbow baby, there's like a different, I don't know, there's something different about going through that experience and then getting to be pregnant and stay pregnant and get to like welcome this little being. And so yeah, so I was very intentional in like what I wanted in this pregnancy, how I wanted to be present, and do things differently, and just tune in to my baby. And so, yeah, I opted out for a lot of things that I had done in previous pregnancies, and just focus more on like intuition and tuning into that. And I did this retreat when I was about 15 weeks with Sister Morningstar. And
I
that
love her.
Yes, it was just so wonderful. I mean, her spirit, like everything, and just the blessings, and we had this circle for all the moms who were pregnant at the time. And so it was just, I mean, it was just amazing. It was the first time I heard my baby. We did it on like a with a fetoscope and stuff, and I got to hear her little heartbeat. Um, and it was just, yeah, it was just magic. It was just like I think a good show of how I wanted this experience to be different. With her, and just, yeah, enjoying like all of those things, like just, I don't know, being held by other birth workers, like after you give so much to other people in this work sometimes, and to receive it, I mean, I just felt so fortunate. It was just like to be loved on again, in such a beautiful way. It was just like amazing. So I just felt like this pregnancy was just beautiful in that way, and also in trusting that things would work out the way they were supposed to, even after those losses. There was a lot of doubt of like, what if this pregnancy doesn't go to term? What if there's something wrong with my baby? And I opted, not to outsource that to anyone, and just really tune in. And I think that was really, really special. I did like group prenatals, like all of these things to kind of tune in with my baby. And I feel like it was just a wonderful way to experience pregnancy, differently than I had with the others, where I was just really, yeah, tuning into like what I was feeling. If for instance, like I was worried, like, hey, should I do the scan to figure out like Down syndrome, all these things. And then I was like, okay, well, what if it comes back positive? What would that change for me? And it's like, it wouldn't change anything, you know. For us, it might mean we have to maybe like go about things differently. We'll have to learn new things or whatever, but it wouldn't change, like, you know, it doesn't change my baby. It doesn't change that I'm having a baby, all these things. And so it was like such a good push to like work through those anxieties that sometimes come up for us in pregnancy. Um, and so that was, yeah, that was the work of this pregnancy. It was like working through fears. And I felt like that was really, really special. And then and I had, I was in school, first year of midwifery school while I'm doing all of this. So, you know, it's also just like so amazing to be learning and like to kind of figure out what that all looks like, supporting other people in their pregnancies while I'm like having my baby. And yeah, it was just really magical in that way. And then for her birth, we get to, you know, those last few weeks. I things I had never experienced before. I had like some bloody discharge like at 36 weeks. I'm like, oh my God, could this be preterm labor? I'm like, no, stay 37 weeks. We get past that, we get closer now, and like it resolves and everything is okay. But I'm like, I've never experienced this before, you know, like what does this mean? And then we get to, you know, 39 weeks, and there's a full moon at like right around 40 weeks. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have another due date baby. I'm making up all these things that I think I can predict. And then, you know, the full moon comes and goes and there's no baby. And I'm like, what? This is crazy. And on what do you call it? Her due date comes and goes. Everything's happening, and I'm just like, there's still no baby. Even though, again, I know I'm like, I'm preparing myself. It could be 42 weeks, Estefany. Could be so much longer. You never know. Um, and the day before she's born, I'm doing drop off at school, and I see this mom who's pregnant. She was due 3 weeks before me. She's had her baby, and I'm like, oh my God, how are you doing? And then she asked me, she's like, what are you due? And I'm like, I was due 3 days ago. And I start sobbing, and I have that big cry. And to the stranger who like I've met like once or twice, I just have a complete sob. And I'm like, because she asked me my due date, this is crazy. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like I'm just, you know, very emotional. And I was like, and I told her, and I was like, you know, but the first time the last time this happened to me too, like, you know, I had a big cry and then my baby was born the next morning. And little did you know, so was this one. So I had my big release. And then that
So
day,
important.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I often say that we need that big cry, let
Yeah.
those emotions out. How
And I'm like, you never
beautiful.
know who you're gonna let it out on. I was like,
Right.
I like went home to my husband. I was like, I just cried to a stranger. This is like crazy, you know. And yeah, and then that night I went to sleep, and I'd been having contractions like every night. Like they would start and then they would stop. And so I'm like, okay, you know, I'm waiting for the night where like they're still going in the morning, and you know. And that night I woke up at like 4 something, and I'm like, okay, like they're still very like light. I am still having contractions. Um, but I'm like, I'm not sure. And then around 5:30, my husband is waking up. And I was like, I don't know. I feel like this could be it because the sun is out and I'm still having contractions, you know? By this point, the other times they would have stopped. Yeah, so my husband, he's awake, and I'm like, okay, so I think this is it, but let's just wait like an hour to see if the contractions are really like picking up before we like welcome anyone in. We weren't sure when we were gonna call. We were again like, I feel pretty good since last time. I'm like, you know, it's wonderful if they make it, but if they don't, we're also probably okay. I just want them here for postpartum. And so I was like, all right, so let's what do you call it? Let's just see what happens in an hour, and then we'll call everybody if it's like picking up and continuing. Because I didn't want it to get spoof. And I guess something I didn't mention, we decided this time that we wanted both of our kids present. And the idea was to have my mom. I felt really comforted by the idea of having her present. She had missed the first birth, and she was really sad about it. And I was like, that's just how, you know, because it was so quick. We just didn't know when to call. Um, And but you know, I was like, maybe that's just how it was supposed to be. But this time, and the second time she was with my toddler at the time, she was watching him overnight. And so this time I was like, no, I really would like you to be there. And I would love actually for the kids to be there. Like I do picture them there. And at the retreat I had with Sister Morningstar, like she had me visualize my birth. And like I saw them there and I saw myself like giving birth on my knees and like just this beautiful like imagery. And so yeah, so we called them at 6:30. My mom like is like 10 minutes away, so she gets here right away. And I had, you know, she was a little nervous about being here. She's like, "Are you sure I shouldn't just take the kids to my house?" And I'm like, "No, no, no. If you guys are all on your best behavior, everybody's welcome to stay. You know, I might just be laboring in the room and you guys can be like in the kids' room or whatever." But I found myself actually like loving having the kids present. Like my daughter came and, you know, she's hugging me and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. You know, my mom comes and she's giving me hip squeezes. My son, he like slept in until 8, which he never does. Like, I mean, ever. Like, this is not, this kid always wakes up early. And of course, that day, I feel like, you know, it's just giving us space. It was just magic. And yeah, my mom, like, she just knew what to do. I had never shown her how to do this. And like, she's like, just knowing exactly how to support me, and support my husband. And then shortly after, my doula gets there and like, you know, she's helping. We're filling up the pool because I'm like, I think I want to get in all of this, I've wanted a water birth all 3 times, you know, and it didn't happen the first 2 times. So I'm like, okay, you know, third time's a charm. So we get the birth pool filled in. And I'm like, it might be too early. Like, I don't know. It might be too early for for the pool, but it just feels like what I need. Um, and when I get in there, I'm just like, I'm blissing out. Like, it reminded me so much of the first one, but like even more like just this ecstasy feeling of like I was just saying things like, wow, this is so good. This is so good. And they bring me like, I'm like, I want banana and ice. I mean, I was just like vibing on ice and banana. And I have like a short clip of like, I'm just eating this banana. I'm like, it's so good. This is so good. I've never eaten a banana with so much like happiness and joy. Like, oh my God, it was just amazing. Like this, I mean, it was the most amazing banana I've ever had. And I was just like, wow. And my kids are coming in the pool, they get their bathing suits and they're like super excited to come in and like they're joining me in there. And it's just like this pool party. Like it's amazing. And you know, I'm having contractions in between. I'm listening to beautiful chorus in the background and it's like you know, it's like I am everything and like all these beautiful songs just reminding me of like my power. And you know, I labor in there for a while and then I'm like, I have to poop, guys. And I know what that means, you know,
That's
but I'm like,
right.
no, 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 guys, I'm like, I'm serious, I really gotta go. Like, no, it's not the baby, I promise, it's not the baby, I just gotta go, you know. And of course I get out, I go to the bathroom. My doula's in there with me and I'm like, no, 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 tell Fabio to come, I want Fabio in here, my husband. And so he comes in and I go to the bathroom and I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, oh, no, no, no. But there's also a baby coming. There's also a baby coming. Of course there is. There's always a baby coming, right? Uh,
Right.
and so he's like, let's go, let's go. So he's trying to get me back in the room. And I'm like, I don't know. And he like finally gets me. I just walk in and I like have this huge contraction leaning over the pool. And I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm tapping out. Like, stop this, like whatever this is, I am done. Like this is because the contraction was so strong. And then of course water breaks and I feel the baby's head and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll finish. Like I can do this. And I give birth and I tell them they go grab the kids in the living room and they're like, and my mom, they're coming back. And as they're coming back, like the baby comes out and my husband catches her and it's like, you know, there's this magical moment. Did not make it back in the pool, of course. Just not meant to be. I got all the oxytocin I needed during labor, but water birth might not be in store for me, and that's okay. But I gave birth on one knee, just like I had pictured in that visualization that I had, and my husband caught her, and it was just like the most amazing thing. Like I remember feeling her head and her ears. I felt her ears as she was like coming out. And she like sat there, and then the next contraction she like shot out, and I got to see, and we had another girl, and we had decided that we would name her after my mom, her middle name. And
Oh.
so, yeah, so it was so special, like to figure out that it was a girl, and then like she would be named like my mom, and like we hadn't told her what the name would be, and so she's there, and like there's this beautiful picture we have of like when we tell her, and like we realize, and like it was just, I mean, it was just so amazing, and to have my kids like there and get to experience this, they are gonna have such a different like um yeah, memory of what birth could be for my son, for my daughter. My son Emilio's 6 and my daughter's 4, Luna, and like it was just so beautiful. Everything that I like wanted for this birth. My midwife made it, and she's my preceptor, Tekarima, and it was just so amazing, to have like such a beautiful support team. I had a different doula this time because my doula went on to midwifery school, and she's in Florida, in Texas. And I had a different birth keeper this time, Jessica, and that was amazing. And then we burned the cord, and it was just so like everything was so intentional, and all ceremony, and that was really special to get to experience that. So yeah, it
What
was magic.
it was a beautiful orgasmic story in
Yeah.
every way. And I can feel all the energy and oxytocin even now. Like it's radiating from you as we hear
Aw.
your story. So beautiful. And I know for everyone listening, right, there's so much to take in from your story. But you talked a lot about like, I love the best banana in your life, right? That it was so good. And we could feel the joy and the pleasure and also the intimacy between you and your partner. To someone who might be pregnant, and I know you teach all the time, you're a doula, you're becoming a midwife. What would you say to them? How can they reclaim that? What would be one tip for them?
Um, Yeah, I think maybe letting go of everything else and just focus on like what's most important to you. Like I think that was to me, I think about the second birth especially. And the first, like I was focused on like, hey, this is for us, like everything else is kind of extra, but like, I want this moment for us. And the same things I do with clients where I'm like, let's practice eye gazing. Like we did that, we did the work in between to like really connect with each other. So just figuring out like what's important to you. And I really, we value that. And I think it makes these experiences just so wonderful. And having my husband catch the baby, that was really like important to me, that if it wasn't me, I wanted it to be him. Because like this is us, like we did this together, we created this life. And how special for you get to welcome her and receive that, like wow, that's amazing. And I think it helps with the imprinting for our family, for him to receive that and to like be a part of that birth in that way. So yeah, so just like a lot of intentionality about like what was important to us, and centering it around us and our family. And everybody else can support that, like the family unit. I think that has been really beautiful, and it has vibrated and like resonated throughout our postpartum. Like we've had so much love, and like especially from the birth workers, like just showing up and taking care of our family, and like giving that love back to us. I had an aunt who came and took care of me in postpartum for 5 weeks, like just so that we could really enjoy our time together as a family. And
How
so,
beautiful. So
yeah,
important, right? We could
yeah,
we could go on and on
I know,
postpartum. We have to do
I
another
know, right?
episode just on that, which I'd love
Yeah.
to welcome you back for that. But I know right now people that are listening would love to connect with you. You're offering your education, your doula services, and in time, your midwifery care. How can people reach you, follow you?
I am on Instagram at birth a mi manera, and also my website is birthamimanera.com. So would love to connect with folks. Email same birthamimanera@gmail. And yeah, please stay in touch. I love connecting with families and just talking about this and trying to create these really powerful experiences. We might only get to experience it a few times in our lives, so just making it as special as possible.
Thank you so much, Estefany. All of that will be in the show notes. So wherever you're listening or watching, just look in the notes below and you'll be able to click right over to follow Estefany or to connect in other ways. And again, thank you so, so much for joining us in your postpartum with a 3-month-old. And to everyone listening, we wish you joy and pleasure in your birth and in your day. And we thank you for listening today. We hope you'll rate, review, like our podcast. That helps us reach more people. Please share it with other people that you know that could benefit from listening to Estefany's beautiful stories. And we hope you'll follow us and join us next week on the Orgasmic Birth Podcast. Thank you.